what lands us here in Acts chapter 14 at 19 is back in Acts chapter 13, Paul and Barnabas, the people had been praying, and the Lord said to them, set Paul and Barnabas apart for the mission and the work that I am sending them out to do. And then he pushes them out and says, and then they sent them and commissioned them. I love that Paul and Barnabas were members of a local church. They go city to city, hit the synagogue, preach the gospel. Some folk come to know Jesus. The Jews hate it. They beat Paul and Barnabas. They try to kill them, and then they go to the next city and do it again. The easiest route is always not the God route. Most times, the roughest route is the God route. We learn an important lesson here of how Paul cared to see those churches grown up. Not just saved, but matured and grown up. If we were challenged in this way, how would we respond? Is our comfy couch, Facebook, Twitter, Christianity keeping us from really growing in Christ comprehensively? Are we not positionally in a place to serve God outside of what would be convenience or comfort? Do we fabricate suffering for just some wimpy not getting our way, and then act as if we're going to die and then call that suffering? In the midst of pain, problems, and predicaments, will we be engaged in a way to make God real to a desperate community that sees him as fake? Can we? They beat him unconscious. I want to make out, they drag him outside, leave him for dead. Paul talks about this, and let me turn to 2 Corinthians chapter 11, 25. And I want you to get this picture as we go in. 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once was stoned. 3 times I was shipwrecked. A night and day adrift on sea. So he's reiterating and bringing these things up. So the question, and this is Paul describing the success of his ministry. So what does Christian ministry look like for you? An imperfect person bringing glory through active submission to his word. An imperfect person, us, bringing God glory through active submission to his word. The Christ-centered missionary is a person that puts him or herself on the line for the sake of bringing people to Christ. That's what Christian ministry looks like. Putting yourself on the line, bringing yourself in harm's way to see other people out of harm's way. We never see the thorns and the beatdowns and the blood and the mosquitoes in our Christian walk. We are looking for a couch. We need to be looking for the cross. And that's why when things don't go right, we start complaining that this is not what we expected. Well, I want to let you know, Paul's description of what Christian ministry looks like is shipwrecked, beat down, left for dead, spit on, stoned, hated. And that's not much different than Jesus' description, is it? Do I fully embrace the inevitability of trials and troubles and terror in serving? Do we embrace it? Do we embrace it? Here's the implication. The missionary will be opposed. See, sometimes we get saved and all of a sudden we think that's the ticket in, but that's the gospel that keeps and codes and continues. That's the gospel we look to. That's the gospel that keeps us. So we can't use the gospel to move from spiritual death to spiritual life, and then when we get to spiritual infancy, think that we can manufacture our own gospel Similac. We can't do it. Desertion and separation from his Father is what he suffered for our sake. He became sin who knew no sin. See, Paul, at the risk of dying, went out and put himself in danger's way. But Jesus, at the cost of dying. Lord, help us as a church to grow in the reality of this suffering.